Hi there, it's Mark Dawson here from the Self-Publishing Formula and the Self-Publishing Show. And in this YouTube video, I am going to tell you all about my 2019 reader survey. So, surveying readers is something that I've been doing for the last at least 3 years, might be 4 years now. I usually do it around about Christmas time, and I put together a survey in SurveyMonkey, which is the software that I use. Others are available. I think there are a number of options on the market now. I like SurveyMonkey. It's quite expensive, but it's nice and powerful, and allows me to easily put together the kind of questions that I'm looking for. Now, I did it this year and sent it out just after Christmas, possibly even between Christmas and New Year, I think it was. Sent it out to the 100,000 readers on my reader list, and got back just under 5,500 responses, something along those lines, 5,450 responses. And from those responses, I'm able to look at trends, I'm able to look at demographics of my readership, work out what people are looking for, where they found me, the kinds of things that attracted them to my books. Lots of interesting information that enables me to make better business decisions about how I'm going to run my publishing company over the next 12 months. And because I've been doing this for a while, I can see how trends are developing over time. So I can look and see, for example, we'll look at Kindle Unlimited and we'll look at readership share in KU, and that has been interesting over the last couple of years. Anyway, we'll probably split this into two videos. We'll see how we get along, and I'll put up some images from the survey so you can have a look at what I'm talking about as we run through these particular questions and answers. So with all of that, let's get into the responses from the 2019 survey. Now, the first few are demographic questions, so we can skip through those reasonably quickly. The first one is quite simply, are you male or female? And as I look down at the screen there, what we've got is male coming back as 65% and female coming back at 34%. So that's fairly typical for me. Now remember, I'm writing thrillers and mysteries, so it's not too surprising, and just kind of qualifying that a little bit, my books are quite like James Patterson, Lee Child, David Baldacci, those kinds of well-known authors. That's the kind of book that I write, and not too surprising that those fairly masculine books are going to appeal to more men than women. But what I think is important to draw from this, at least for me, is that 35% of my audience is female. So it would be wrong of me to assume that all of my audience is male, and it would be wrong of me if I was running a Facebook ad, for example, to limit my ads so that they only show in the news feeds of potential male readers. I'd be doing myself out of 3.5 out of 10 of my readers would not see those ads. So that's going to vary for you depending on what you write. If you're writing romances, you won't be surprised that that will skew the other way, and it will probably skew more in favor of women than men. Maybe, I'm guessing here, but maybe 90%, 95% women for romances. If you write action and adventure, young adult, sci-fi, fantasy, you're going to see an interesting split that will probably vary a little bit from mine. But the key takeaway from this is that it is a good thing to know exactly how your audience breaks down in terms of that male-female demographic. So, second question, again, another demographic question is, what is your age? So this is kind of worrying, actually. If you look at the answers on the screen, you'll see younger than 18. I have no readers who are younger than 18. So there's that. Then if we look at between 18 and 24, you'll see that only 12 people have put themselves in that category, which is 0.22%. So again, negligible readership below the age of 24. 25 to 40, we're looking at 5%, falling within that bracket. 41 to 65 is the biggest, and that comes out at 54%. And then 65 and older is another big hefty chunk there of 40%. So another way to look at that, and this is a little bit worrying, I suppose, in terms of the long term, although hopefully not something that would impact my business, particularly whilst I'm still writing. But if you look at that again and just kind of aggregate those two big chunks, the 54% and the 40%, you can say that nearly 95% of my audience is older than 41. Or in other words, only 5% of my audience is less than 40. So that's interesting. Whether that shows kind of a general trend of readership among the population, or whether it's something that is specific to my kind of books, I don't know. In young adults, I imagine, I'm not a young adult reader or writer, I would imagine that you would find a scattering, or perhaps even more than a scattering, of responses coming in that 18 to 40-ish bracket. So you'll have some actual young adults, and you'll have some people who grew up on the Harry Potter books and moved into or continued to read those kinds of books as they got older. Again, that's hard to say, I'm speculating there, but the takeaway from me is that most of my audience is older. Now, that is useful for me in Facebook ads. So what I might want to do, I'm certainly not going to be switching off the ads to women, but I would consider starting or filtering my ads so they only show to people who are over the age of 40. And in fact, I've been doing that for a little while. I usually start at 35, but given this response and also other responses that I've had through the years, that might be something that I would decide to do is to just set that upper limit at 40 to anything above 40, and potentially avoid wasting impressions to people who are not likely to either buy my books in particular or books in general. So at least in the thriller genre that I write. So again, an interesting one there, and one to be aware of. And then let's move on to Q3. So again, just continuing with the demographic trend here for the first of these three questions. This one asks, again, very simple, where do you live? Most of my readers, this wasn't a surprise to me, this has always been the case, are in the US. So 49% of my readers are in the US, 35% of them are in the UK, and then we have a scattering of other jurisdictions. So Canada comes in at 3.4%, Australia and New Zealand at 5.3%. That's exactly what I'd expect in terms of how the income breakdown I see every month plays out, with the US and the UK fighting over top spot most months, depending on what I'm advertising and where I'm advertising. Australia almost always is the third, with Canada at number 4. And then for me, Germany is starting to show signs of life. I didn't put that down as an option this year, but I probably will next year. I think Germany and some other European countries might get their own dedicated slots for people to tick. India comes in at 0.22%, Brazil at 0.1%. So neither of those are significant markets for me, despite the fact that India has an enormous middle class reading in English, and Brazil, again, a very big, very literate nation, although I don't write in Portuguese, which is probably to my disadvantage in that jurisdiction. And then at the end there, I have that other column, and if I just kind of open that up now, let's have a quick look. We got things like Philippines, Puerto Rico, Ireland, South Africa. Ireland would be a good one. I should probably look at that. France, Costa Rica again. So, interesting. A few Irish responses coming through there. Hong Kong, Germany. Again, I could spend a lot of time looking at this and then picking out for next year which of these jurisdictions I think I should be looking at to give them a headline slot so that people can tick that. Switzerland, Spain, Sweden, Ireland. Ireland, I think, looks like it could be a reasonably big market. And again, that's useful for me when it comes to targeting my Facebook ads. Okay, so that's the first three questions on demographics. I'm going to pause right here, and then I'm going to jump into the next questions, which are more about reader discoverability in the second of these videos. So I will see you next time. Remember, if you want to subscribe and be notified when that video comes out, and of course when all the other videos that we have on the Self-Publishing Formula YouTube channel, just hit that button, the bell button, the bell icon below this video. All the links that you need will be down below as well. So remember to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.